Today we're going to talk to you about what's new in Developer Toolbox for Commerce Cloud. We have a team of 3 people here, and we're going to briefly introduce that. But before we begin, a quick note that you should make your purchase decisions based on products and services that are currently available. With that out of the way, let's jump right in. Here's the team. I am VP of Product Management for Commerce Cloud. Andrew is Director of Product Management on my team, and Terrence is our Senior Product Manager. Together, we are responsible for developer experience of Commerce Cloud, in addition to several other services. For today, you should expect 3 different key takeaways from the session. Number 1, we want to cover what's new in developer tools. We also have a demo lined up for you. Number 2, we encourage questions, and we'll have time for Q&A towards the end. We'll also share with you other related sessions that you should participate in. And lastly, we will touch upon the future of developer experience for Commerce Cloud. And Terrence is going to share some of the solution kits we've been working on. Commerce Cloud now has a full suite of developer tools that are available, and they allow you to connect with your customers across all touch points. You can take advantage of our open commerce APIs. You can use our proven templates and broad set of developer tools for ultimate developer flexibility. Commerce Cloud also offers you an easy way to get environment. What used to take days earlier now only takes minutes, and we'll have a demo. Andrew is going to present that. Lastly, Commerce Cloud is allowing you now to extend your functionality just beyond a basic storefront. You can take advantage of our ecosystem of products at Salesforce, including Heroku, and leverage the new solution kits to extend the functionality beyond storefront to build more rich and engaging experiences. So with that, I will hand it over to Andrew to walk us through what's new in developer tools.
All right. Thank you, Abhi. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk through kind of the headlines of a number of the developer tools that we've been working on or that are about to come out, talk about each one of them a little bit, and then kind of bring everything together at the end with a demonstration of how using all of these tools together can get your environment up and running quickly where you can start doing your development on top of Commerce Cloud. So let's start off with talking about documentation and training and a few things that we've done over the last few months and things that are still coming out. So we now have all the release notes for Commerce Cloud are now published out on the Salesforce Help and Training Center. So they're publicly available. You can see them out there. Currently, release notes you'd usually have to find through Business Manager or through the Exchange application. But now you can get to them, and the formatting has been updated. There's a lot more information in there that you can get from them. In addition, we've made our B2C Commerce documentation or info center available out publicly. Before, it was hidden behind, you had to have an account manager user to log in and see it. Now you don't need that. Anyone can get in and browse through the documentation for all of Commerce Cloud and what's there and what's available. With Trailhead, we continue to create more trails for Commerce Cloud out there. You can go out to Trailhead and in the products, choose Commerce Cloud and see all the trails that are available. There are new trails coming out all the time. There's a new trail that will be arriving for AI and Einstein in regards to setting up product recommendations. And then once again, just like we had last year, we'll have a holiday preparedness trail that will be available in the next couple of months to get you ready for setting up and the things that you need to prepare to do for this season's holiday. And then lastly, our Storefront Reference Architecture instructor-led training courses will be starting up in August. So if you have developers that are new to the platform or need to, maybe a refresher, or if they're not familiar with how the Storefront Reference Architecture works, these training sessions will be available starting in August. You can schedule, they're located at various locations, and you can find that out on the Salesforce training site. Okay, moving on from documentation and training, let's talk a little bit about our Storefront Reference Architecture, and in particular, a new module that we're calling our all-in-one module that is available now. So with Commerce Cloud, Commerce Cloud provides a reference architecture, basically a starting point for you to build your storefront applications on top of. The latest version of this we call our Storefront Reference Architecture, or SFRA. is now approaching being in GA for almost a year now. There are a number of customers that have started to adopt it. New customers that are coming onto the platform are starting to use it, and it's getting a lot of traction. By using the reference architecture, it gives you a good starting point for where you can then customize and expand on top of it. So using SFRA, it starts you off with a good mobile-first user experience. And then from there, you can use JavaScript, and we've incorporated Bootstrap in it to make your modifications in a modular fashion on top of that. So previously, our reference architectures operated by you would get the code for the reference architecture and then start making changes to it. And so basically, as soon as you start making any changes, it started making it difficult for you to ever get an updated version of the reference architecture. With SFRA, things are now modularized, so that the base module that's available, you don't have to modify. You create modules instead on top of it, and then you can still update the base module as upgrades come out and are made available. We also made a number of features. We pulled them out of the base reference architecture and created them as modules also based upon feedback that we had from developers. Developers had said having all of those features in the base reference architecture caused a lot of code bloat and not necessarily things that they always wanted every single feature there. So we separated them out and created modules for them so you could add on top of them. But what that did is that led to some feedback that we've had over the last number of months from implementers and from business users who are saying that to get some of these features, they'd have to do a lot of interconnecting of code to bring those modules in and connect them through the reference architecture. So that led to the creation of what we're calling our all-in-one cartridge. So there is now available out on GitHub. You can get the all-in-one cartridge and apply that to the top of the Storefront Reference Architecture. By doing this, it exposes a lot of the top features that we have available in the reference architecture so that now they can just be enabled and disabled by the business users within Business Manager. So all the features, the top features we have available, such as Apple Pay and in-store pickup and gift registry and wish lists, are now able to be easily turned on and off by the business users. They can turn them on in a staging environment, try them out, make adjustments, turn them off, and do the same thing as they move them into production. So this gives us a lot more flexibility for implementations that need to be just brought up quickly and to get running. The next topic to talk about is our new page designer. So with Commerce Cloud, the building experience, your experiences on top of Commerce Cloud has always been about having complete pixel-perfect control over what you can do in the site, which has often involved a lot of developers getting in to create code, create script code, maintain CSS, and change ISML pages, and all of these things that you could do on top of the platform with code. It provided a lot of power and a lot of things that people could build, and we've had many customers that built a lot of great experiences on top of Commerce Cloud with it. But oftentimes, it always required a developer. With Page Designer, we now have an option where the developers can create templates and basically get things ready for their business users, so the business users can then use clicks instead of code to get the experiences that they want out of the Commerce Cloud features. With Page Designer, it really makes it so that you as developers can create these templates, create things based upon open web standards, and create these reusable components, get them set up for your business users, and then allow them to use the Page Designer UI to go in and design, schedule, preview, and deploy their content updates that they want to. It allows them to be able to see things in a WYSIWYG format. They can use drag and drop to drag images and put things up there and post them. They can change fonts, change text, and all of these other things that are available. So Page Designer is actually a great new tool that's coming out this year with Commerce Cloud. It's available in beta right now, so you can go into the Business Manager and actually just enable it and start trying it out. And it's scheduled to go to GA in August. We really think Page Designer is a big change for how retailers and customers in general will be able to operate and use Commerce Cloud and what it can do. It provides them a new mechanism to be able to do it. And we have some great sessions actually here at Trailhead DX to talking about Page Designer and workshops that you can participate in to actually get hands-on with Page Designer. And by all means, if you have any questions at all regarding Page Designer, you can find the Commerce Cloud outpost down in the campground, and there are lots of people there who can answer questions about Page Designer and what it can do. Okay, as we keep moving through all of these developer tools, the next stop is we're going to talk a little bit about the APIs that are available on top of Commerce Cloud. So Commerce Cloud itself has had a full REST API layer on top of it for actually quite a while. What we call our Open Commerce API, or OCAPI. It's a full REST layer that's available, and it's actually separated into 3 different areas. The first one is a grouping of APIs we call our Shop API. So these are APIs that are related to the shopper persona and provide things related to like carts, product information, things you might need to set up a product detail page or a product listing page, getting prices, those type of things. Any APIs that you may need to build a storefront experience are available from the Shop API. The second one is the Data API. So the Data API has all the APIs to do things like CRUD operations against the objects in the database. So Data API is all about getting data into the database or getting data back out. Things related, people use the Data API for things like system-to-system integration and just general data retrieval and mass data updates into the system. And the last one has actually only been available the last couple of years or so, what we call the DX API, which is based around things related to our developer persona using the API. So these are APIs that are available that allow you to interact with the Commerce Cloud systems and do the things that you need to, oftentimes for like a CI/CD pipeline that you might need to do. So there are APIs available for things such as code uploads and activations, site imports. You can run jobs through these APIs. You can schedule jobs through the APIs. You can get access to the WebDAV file system and move files in and out with the APIs. And it also provides a full metadata API, so you can get data about the APIs themselves and what they can do. So that's a full developer experience API, and we'll actually come back to that in just a minute here as we talk through some other things. In addition to the APIs, last year we introduced our OCAPI Explorer, which is a Swagger-based UI to be able to interact with OCAPI and see the full documentation for everything that's there. From within OCAPI Explorer, you can browse through the documentation for the APIs and see sample requests and response. You can actually connect OCAPI Explorer to your own Commerce Cloud environments and then use the try it out feature from there. So you can use OCAPI Explorer, get in, find an API, see details about it, connect to your environment, and then execute the API from in there and see what the response looks like. By being able to connect it to your environment, then you're getting your data back. If you've created custom hook code or anything on the server, those will execute and you can see the responses that will come back. In addition, OCAPI Explorer provides a number of other pieces of technical information that are often useful in terms of you can download the schema for the APIs from there. You can look at the extension points, what extension points have been created for the APIs. You can see cross-site scripting information and a number of other debug pieces of data that you can get back from interacting with the APIs. So it really is kind of a holistic place where you can go outside of just the standard info center documentation, where you can go to see what the APIs are, what the endpoints are, what they look like, error responses you'll get, request and response examples, and all of those things that you expect from a modern API. All right, the last thing to kind of work over is what we're calling our On Demand Developer Sandboxes, as well as the command line interface that we have to interact with all of these environments. We've talked about On Demand Developer Sandboxes for a little while now. They've been in a beta program for the last number of months. We currently have around a little more than 50 customers and partners in the beta program using the sandboxes on a regular basis. I'm happy to report that the beta program is actually coming to an end, and it's only coming to an end because the sandboxes are supposed to go GA in August. So as the sandboxes come up and they're available and everybody can have the opportunity to use them. Currently, to get a sandbox for a Commerce Cloud environment takes a number of things that you have to do. Usually, you have to reach out to your AE or your CSM, get tickets submitted to get an environment created and up and running. Basically, it will take a number of days for you to get a sandbox environment for Commerce Cloud today. The on-demand sandboxes kind of flip the paradigm around, and instead of Salesforce being in control of what environments get created when, we give that control back to the customer themselves so that they can create their own environments. So from an API or from a command line, you can use commands to create a sandbox, stop it, start it, and even remove it. So you can create these sandboxes as much as you need to and take them down when you're done with them. Not only that, but when you create the sandbox, it only takes a matter of minutes. So right now, sandboxes can be created through the on-demand. These on-demand sandboxes can be created within 7-8 minutes or so. A sandbox is created, stood up, and is ready to be used. Because of this new ability and model and this kind of this service that's out there, we're also changing the way that you would use these sandboxes and purchase these sandboxes. So today, sandboxes are very much an environment by environment cost that occurs. As we have the new sandboxes, it will be much more of a service-based, usage-based model for pricing of the sandboxes. So you'll pay for what you use, and we actually won't put a cap on how many sandboxes you can create. So you can create as many sandboxes as you need to, bring them up, take them back down when you're done with them. It gives you a lot of flexibility that we've heard from a number of our customers of what they would want to do with sandboxes. In particular, 2 different types of use cases. One is that you can actually create sandboxes and swell up during a project. So you have a project that's coming up for the next 3 months, the ability to create another dozen sandboxes to use through the project and then take them down at the end of that 3 months is something that has often come up from our customers, and now they have the ability to do that. The other piece of it is that the sandboxes can be short-lived. You can specify time to live for the sandboxes, which allows them, if you want, to be used in your CI/CD pipelines. So we have customers that are in the beta program today that have created CI pipelines that start out with creating a sandbox, deploying their code, deploying some sample data, running a bunch of tests, and then tearing the sandbox down. All the types of things that you would expect from a full CI pipeline to be able to integrate before you push something into staging or into production are now available with these new sandboxes. Along with the sandboxes, there is a command line interface that's available out from the Salesforce community and available out right now in GitHub. So the command line, which we call SFCC CI, is available today. It integrates with the sandboxes, so it's certainly the way that you can get in and create and start and stop and remove these new developer sandboxes. But it's actually available today and can work against all Commerce Cloud instances to do a number of other things. So it's available so you can use the command line to upload code and activate code within the system, to upload data and import the data into the database. You can interact with files in WebDAV. You can start jobs off and check job status through the command line. All of these things that you're able to do directly. It also provides a JavaScript API for it, so that makes it even easier to build it and pull it into your CI tools, things like Jenkins and that type of stuff, so you can pull into there to use it. As you can see, a lot of the operations that it mentions there are the same types of things that are actually available from that OCAPI DX API. So the command line tool is really just interacting with that API and providing that API now to command line for you to be able to use. So after going through all those things, really the power of everything comes as we pull together and look at all these things together and how they operate and being able to stand up an environment within a matter of minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to, we have a kind of a demo video that I'll talk through, kind of connecting the whole thing from beginning to end with the process. So in getting in here, when you get to start using the command line and its availability, the first thing you have to do is you have to log into the system. So I'm logging in with an interactive mode of the command line so we can see it, but it will open up a browser, log in. Oh, it's not up there. Let's fix that. One moment, technical difficulties. Maybe. There we go. Nope, that's still not it.
You might need to exit out of PowerPoint.
Okay. Yeah, there we go. That looks better. Okay, let's try this again. So now from the command line, log in. It's in an interactive mode, so it will bring us up into a browser. And we can log in. If 2FA is enabled, I'll see the 2FA. But you can also set up logins so that it's just done without the interaction mode and send things directly. So once logging in, then we're going to use the command line. We'll create a sandbox. So we just sandbox create. AAIA is the realm ID that I've been assigned from myself. I get a warning message there that I've tried to create sandbox 12 before. But then next thing, we can see the list of sandboxes that are available. So we can see every sandbox that's been created, and we can see that my sandbox number 12 is in this creating status. So it's ready and it's up and running. Now, like I mentioned, creating sandboxes takes 7-8 minutes or so for it to run. So a few minutes later, we come back. We can do the sandbox list thing again. And now we'll see the sandbox 12 has started. So it's up and it's available for us to use. From the command line again, you can use the tool again and jump and have it open up Business Manager directly against that sandbox. So specify the sandbox, brings up the browser, log in again, and it'll take us right into the Business Manager instance for this sandbox. You'll see that there aren't any sites that are available yet in there because we haven't uploaded anything. The other thing I'm going to doing here is enabling the Page Designer beta. So while Page Designer is in beta, enabling this is a manual process that you have to do. Once Page Designer goes to GA, then this is a step you wouldn't have to complete when doing this process. So we've enabled Page Designer back at the command line. The next step with any environment is to upload the code that you want to run in that environment. So I'm going to upload the SFRA cartridge, or not cartridge, but the SFRA base. And then once you upload the code, then you have to activate it. So you tell the system that this piece of code is now the active piece of code on the instance. The next step then is to upload data. SFRA itself comes with a collection of data with images and the starting point information. So we'll upload that data to the system. Uploading it just moves the zip file from where you are up to the server. So that doesn't take too long. It should come back here in just a few seconds. But then once it comes back, the next piece is to then tell the server to take that data that's now up there and import it in all of its, in its structure into the database. So we can issue the import process from here. And then once it's going, that will take a few minutes, takes 3 or 4 minutes for it to import all the data. Once the import's complete, then the next step, I'm actually going to upload a couple of templates that are required for Page Designer. So again, since Page Designer is still in beta, it's not fully baked into SFRA yet. But once it goes to GA, these steps wouldn't be needed either, as Page Designer would have templates already built into SFRA. And the last thing to do is once you upload data into the system, you usually run the reindexing job. That resets all the indexes within the system to get things up and running so the storefront is activated and working. So the reindexing job is another piece that takes 3 to 4 minutes for it to run. You can use the line that it had there to get status of the job, so we can now run and see that this job has completed. So with that completion, we can now issue the sandbox get command again to bring us into the business manager for the sandbox that now we've deployed SFRA, we have Page Designer in there, and it's ready to go. So now you can see there are sites up in the corner. We can choose the reference architecture site, and then we can even bring up the storefront for it. So we can see that the storefront reference architecture is up and running with the mobile-first design. It has its default tracking consent, but all the images and things that are in there are up and running, ready to go. So that's the base point you could start doing development on top of. And then we can also bring up Page Designer itself. So from the content menu, you can bring up the Page Designer, and you'll see there are 3 templates that have already been created. So templates are something that you as developers can create and make available to your business users. And then they're able to come into this UI and be able to change images, fonts, and text, and drag and drop and rearrange things all within that template, and then preview it or schedule to publish or publish it directly. And then the last thing that we'll do here is to use OCAPI Explorer. So we can bring up the OCAPI Explorer and just change the host name at the top to where my sandbox is that I've created. And then authorize into it. Anytime you're using OCAPI, you always have a client ID and a password that you have to use, basically an application ID to get into the system. So we put that in there and authorize through there. And then from there, we can start to explore the API that is running in my sandbox. So that's the data API. We can see all the endpoints there. You can change to the shop API. Whenever you're using the shop API, you have to specify a site to use. So we specify the reference architecture site. And then from there, we can browse through and see the full API. So we're interacting directly with the API that's running on that sandbox. We can look at like the product search endpoint, see details about it. We can even interact with it by putting in a query parameter. We can look for pants and try it out, and that'll issue the request directly to the sandbox we've created, and you can see the full request and response that came back from it. So it's really, in collecting all this stuff together, we now have a fully functioning environment that we can immediately start to do development against. I know there were a few minutes later in there, but in reality, in real time, this took about 16 to 17 minutes to complete the full process, which compared to what many people are experiencing today with Commerce Cloud is vastly different than what is happening currently. All right, let's bring the slides back up, and Terrence is going to take us through. Man, does not want. All right, Terrence will take us through kind of what's up for the future and where we're going.
Thank you, Andrew. So now that we've seen a lot of the great tools that are available now and soon for Commerce Cloud, we wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about where are we going next. So the first thing that you're going to see a lot more of from Commerce Cloud is an API-first development paradigm. I think a lot of us are used to thinking about Commerce Cloud as being script first and OCAPI second, and we're really going to be shifting that approach and embracing the API-first approach. So if you're thinking about doing development with a headless model, using our web APIs, this is something that we're extremely focused on right now. And one of the tools that we've been using to do this is MuleSoft. And I think a lot of Commerce Cloud developers and Salesforce developers are familiar with MuleSoft largely as an integration platform. Our development teams have been using it as an API development platform as well, which is one of the really powerful things that MuleSoft can do. I know our engineers have been really excited to use the MuleSoft API design tools, the sharing of APIs and fragments. It's a really powerful tool, and I'd encourage you to take a look at that. We're also going to be launching, actually have launched right here at Trailhead, solution kits that will help you and your teams explore new opportunities to use tools like our Commerce APIs and Heroku to build new business experiences for your customers. We're going to take a look at that next. In addition to our solution kits, we're looking at Heroku as a great platform for building new experiences, building apps, and all the tools that comes with Heroku. So both Heroku and MuleSoft are two great Salesforce products that if you haven't explored them while you're here at Trailhead, take the opportunity to talk to some of the folks from the MuleSoft team and the Heroku team to learn about them more. And of course, continuing to expand our developers toolkit with tools that Andrew talked about already. So what are our solution kits? So these are new documentation and information for you to explore ways to expand the power of your Commerce Cloud experience using our APIs, using the power of the Heroku app building experience. Each solution kit has an overview of a business value, an opportunity that you might be interested in, or your clients might be interested if you're consultants. It'll have example use cases. It's going to have documentation that helps you get started with Heroku and how to integrate with our B2C Commerce APIs. And here at Trailhead, we've launched 3 new solution kits. The first one is focused on mobile shopping experiences. As we all know, shoppers are more and more using their mobile devices to not only shop, but also now convert and make purchases. So this solution kit is focused on how to build great shopping experiences on mobile devices that are integrated with B2C commerce. The second solution kit is focused on storefront applications. And this looks at use cases like taking a traditional storefront and embedding in it some more powerful experiences related to things like customization of products. And the third is about in-store applications. And lots of our customers already are interested in providing store associates or customers and shoppers great experiences for in-store applications. And that solution kit is going to be focused on that use case. One question that we've heard quite a bit as we've talked about this new approach and embracing the API-first development paradigm is how can I, as a developer on Commerce Cloud today, make sure that our team and our practices are well aligned with the future direction of the B2C commerce platform. So we wanted to share a few things that we'd recommend as best practices today that align well with where we're going next. The first, as I mentioned, is API-first development. This is a pretty common development practice for a lot of companies, and we definitely encourage embracing this approach. And of course, that means for Commerce Cloud, using our OCAPI APIs and using tools like the OCAPI Explorer to explore and get great use out of those APIs. We'd encourage looking at platforms like Heroku to build shopping experiences, whether they're core experiences or expanded experiences, to create new shopper experiences. I would also encourage you to use tools like the SFCC CI command line tool and the On Demand Sandboxes that are soon to be GA to build a CI/CD process. Some things that you might want to consider reevaluating would be extensive customization via the script API. As we embrace more and more of those web APIs through OCAPI and future APIs, think more about using those as your first approach to integration. And also declining usage of our pipelines. If you've been a Demandware developer in the past, Commerce Cloud developer for a while, pipelines are an older technique. And we'd encourage you to look more at building cartridges using controllers and the SFRA reference architecture, and of course, OCAPI. We also want to share that we'll be at Connections very soon in June in Chicago. This is Salesforce's premier B2C event, and we'll all be there, and a lot of our Salesforce Commerce Cloud customers will be there, so a great opportunity to connect more with B2C commerce customers and other partners and developers. And most importantly, we invite you all to connect more with us later today at the end of a long day at Trailhead DX. We're going to be having a session at Thirsty Bear Brewing Company, which is just down the street. It's a short walk from here at Moscone. And we'll be there from 5 to 7, so please come and join all of us and all of your fellow Trailblazers on commerce at Thirsty Bear. And with that, we just want to thank you all for being here with us today at Trailhead DX and have a little bit of time for questions for those of you who have some follow-ups.
Yeah, so any questions you want to move to the next slide? Sessions. So these are other sessions that you might be interested in. Take a look, and we are ready for any questions you might have on presentation so far. You mean on the lower end or the higher end?
Maybe both.
Okay. Andrew,
Yeah, I mean, so honestly, our sweet spot has always been kind of in the middle. We're actually getting a lot more up at the upper end from the tier 0 and tier 1 retailers, so that's good, and we're able to, really the platform is really built for that type of high volume. I mean, we ran, I can't remember the numbers, but essentially we ran millions of transactions through the system in over the holiday period. For the lower end, I mean, it is a little bit of a hard starting point, honestly, compared to something like Shopify. We give you a lot more flexibility with what you can do. So if a retailer is really looking to be able to build their experience the way they want, we can certainly do that down in the lower end. But we're not getting into the competition of, the mom and pop stores that are down running, tier 5, tier 4, that type.
yeah, and moving forward, I would say that anything that's even, in $1 billion range, our system should be able to support that. If it doesn't today, we will build those capabilities by the time you implement. On the lower end, as Andrew said, it's always going to be challenged how far below market you want to go, because after a certain point, there are economies of scale. Unless you have a large number of such customers, you're not deriving value out of it. So that's where the threshold is going to be about how much is the cost of implementation. Yeah.
Plans to kind of revamp how you open up OCAPI? Because right now it's like a JSON chunk, right? It's a grant access defining these. It's kind of a lot to go through what you want to have access to, all the different plans. Is there a way to kind of make that
Sure. So it's more about how the OCAPIs are structured, or also the auth model, auth model around that. Both?
Both.
Okay. So there are two parts to your question, I guess. One is how the OCAPI is structured, how many calls you need to make to compose an object or a process or an experience. And second is the auth model around it, I guess. Auth model. Yeah, so far, auth model is not significantly changing in near term for us. Partly the reason is that we are revamping some of the APIs to try to compose it and create more of what we would call experience APIs that you can use to build engaging applications, PWAs on top. As we build those APIs, though, auth model is going to be a part of that. So the next step soon after would be to say, what part of these APIs can you expose to which persona, and how do you group them together? And where do you manage all of this in a centralized place, which today could be in different places for Salesforce versus commerce and such.
Any other questions? Yes?
Yeah.
when the Salesforce Commerce Cloud Sandboxes go GA, is there going to be an overlap period where you shut down old ones and the new ones will be available so you can transition? Or is it going to be like 30 days or something?
No. The pod-based sandboxes that are available today will still be available when these new ones go to GA. It is our long-term goal that eventually all the pod sandboxes will go away, but that's like in a 18-month, 2-year type plan. Yeah. The current sandboxes will still be available for at least 18 months to 2 years.
We are using the new sandbox.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to go GA in their year. So you're going to overlap period there.
The pilot, you're asking if the
For
pilot demand
for
box.
the current beta customers? No, the beta rolls down at the end of July, and so all the, based upon what we have to do in terms of customer data and our rules around that, we have to bring everything down and take everything away. So all the sandboxes that are being used currently in the beta will disappear, and then you'll have to stand them back up with the GA ones. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so what we have presented so far in terms of future is few months out. Experience APIs are probably a year out. But the way we're thinking of it is, given where we are today with OCAPIs, customers are trying to build applications directly on top of that. And sometimes they run into issues as to how many API calls I need to make to be able to get a product aggregate object, for example. we're trying to get around that limitation and give you some experience APIs on top. And the solutions for that, one could be we build composition APIs. The solution for that could be we rely on likes of MuleSoft to leverage their Catalyst, which translates these APIs and such. And these are all conversations in progress, not something you'd be able to leverage in the next 6 months or so, but beyond that.
So I think we're at
We
time, but
are out of time, but
Yeah.
if you want to come up and ask us.
come on by. We'll also, of course, have our sessions downstairs and throughout the rest of this, and we'll be at the campground with the B2C Commerce booth as well.
Great.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.